There are people every day making decisions about the future of public education. Listening projects, summits, conferences of groups and organizations committed to educational justice have revealed real tensions or hotspots that lay unresolved and limit our ability to unite around more potent narratives. Each episode in this series shares potential public narratives that might resolve these hotspots while explaining and unpacking the historical context and choices that lay behind it.
Public education, in my opinion, is a fundamental right for all human beings. And when you inject the profit motive into education, you corrupt the value and decency of public education. And that's something that's really causing tremendous damage and harm both to children, their schools, and their communities.
The call to end profiteering is clear. It doesn't say that all corporations or private schools are bad. It names the behavior that must stop across all communities, whether public, private, nonprofit, or some other label.
When I think of profiteering, I think of profits. I think of businesses and I think of greed. So if we think about businesses, their whole goal is to make money. And that's a problem when you apply it to public education, because the goal of public education is not to make a profit or make money, it's to educate students. And it's a problem then when companies or businesses are making money off of schools and students, when in fact we should be doing the opposite, and that's putting money into schools and investing in our students.
There have been several periods where big business and corporations have taken control of education. So in the 1920s, you had the era of scientific management, where people were treating school children as simply data points, pieces in the gross domestic product, or how you can make sure that children are meeting certain standards of efficiency. And today, it's interesting because many of those same trends have arisen in schools. Maybe the fact that you have massive standardized testing, you have schools that are being graded based on their test scores. There's value-added teacher evaluation, so quantitative measures as opposed to, say, qualitative measures are king and the most supreme, the reign supreme in classrooms.
Schools are part of a larger system, right? We're talking about not just the ways in which schools operationalize profiteering, but it forces us to look at housing and transportation and law enforcement and everything that goes into families functioning in the system. End profiteering calls attention to the fact that it's not a singular siloed element that we need to examine, meaning the element being just the school. It is actually larger than that. And when you look at it in terms of a system, the gain is larger.
So the charter school movement began originally as places where there's supposed to be innovation that would then be applied to other schools that may not have been able to innovate in the same ways. And a lot of the first charter schools were actually places where social justice curriculum was being taught, or we had more consciousness around diversity, and a lot of the things that I would say the social justice community really wanted to see more of in schools. But unfortunately, this is an example where the privatization, profiteering, businesses have co-opted the charter school movement. So instead of these community-based charter schools, we have these like corporate chains of charter schools where it's not just about the student getting what they need holistically, but it's become about numbers, and the bottom line may not always just be profits, although it's crazy we have for-profit charter schools now, but it's all about like test scores and input and output. And that totally detracts from the original purpose of what charter schools were supposed to be about. And it's become a place in a way for companies and corporations and banks and real estate developers to actually make money. And that's the problem with profiteering. And that's the problem with having a business model being applied to a public education model.
End profiteering, the particular framing end profiteering. It names the action and then it names the value. And so end, to stop the action, is the first part. And the second is profiteering. This is an oppressive value that we need to stop. semicolon, to then do what? Begin this or commence this. So end profiteering has even a larger call than its actual message. It's the call of the action, stop the value, and then what next?
Ultimately, we want to know, do these narratives advance your own efforts?